We're ready.
Clerk will call the roll.
Glenn Whitley, County Judge.
Here.
Roy C. Brooks, Commissioner Precinct 1.
Present.
Marty Van Ravensway, Commissioner Precinct 2.
Here.
Gary Fickus, Commissioner Precinct 3. Here. J.D. Johnson, Commissioner Precinct 4.
Here.
Constitutes a quorum.
Thank you. Our invocation this morning will be delivered by Pastor Delvin Wiles from the Westridge Church of the Nazarene in Fort Worth. Everybody please remain standing after the invocation for our pledges.
Let's bow our heads for prayer. Heavenly Father, we pause to say thank you for your wonderful grace and your love that you give us every day. We pray, O God, for your blessings to be upon this court and decisions to be made. Your wisdom would be imparted for the good of all of our community. Thank you, God, for being so kind to us and watching over us. Thank you for your blessings that you give us. Our hearts are full because of you. Bless this day, Lord, and all that goes on. May it bring honor and glory to you, the giver of life. In these things we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you, Pastor Wiles, for that coming out today. Mr. Manius, agenda announcements.
Thank you, Your Honor. Members of the court, we have two announcements for you this morning. The first one is under the Administrator section, item 9A4. This concerns an exception to the travel policy. We would ask that we remove that from the agenda at this time. Then secondly, under Public Health, item 9G2, which is a contract with Creative Group. We're going to ask that we hold that for 1 week. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. Court members, you have before you the minutes of our regular meeting of August the 3rd.
Move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Under our proclamations and resolutions, we got two great things going on today. The first is the resolution recognizing really our back-to-school roundup and the effort that Walmart has made in sponsoring that effort. So I'm going to read the proclamation into the record, and then I believe that in addition to a lot of other folks I'm going to also introduce Nikki Miller-Jones and Tim Ross from Walmart are here, and I would ask them to come forward to accept this resolution as I read it into the record. If y'all just come right down here. Whereas 18% of the children in the public schools in Tarrant County live below the federal poverty level, and many families not only struggle to put food on the table, but also are unable to provide the essential school supplies for their children to start the school year prepared to learn. And whereas 6 years ago, a collaborative effort between Tarrant County and 20 entities, including school districts, municipalities, the Tarrant County Public Health Department, private nonprofits, and volunteers, joined forces to provide to children needed school supplies, immunizations, haircuts, and information on social services through the Back-to-School Roundup. And whereas through the generosity of corporate sponsors, the 6th annual Back-to-School Roundup, to be held on August the 12th, 2010 at Will Rogers Memorial Center, will be able to serve, it says 10,000 here, but we're at 12,000 today, 12,000 children in grades K through 12. And whereas Walmart believes education is critical to the lives and well-being of all Americans, and in 2009, through its foundation, Walmart gave more than $50 million to fund educational programs in communities across the country, affording access to a quality education for our future leaders. And whereas Walmart serves as a model for corporate social responsibility by providing funds and offering free vision screenings to the back-to-school roundup, which directly benefits low-income students and their families in Tarrant County. Now, therefore, be it resolved that we, the Commissioners Court of Tarrant County, commend and recognize Walmart for its exemplary spirit of giving back to local communities through the generous contributions as presenting sponsor to the back-to-school roundup. In witness whereof, we have heretofore set our hands and caused the seal of Tarrant County to be affixed this 10th day of August, 2010. I will move its approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Now, before I start down that way, I want to introduce some other folks who are here today and have helped with this project. Now, some have already left or had to leave. There was folks from Atmos Energy, folks from All Smiles Dental, our own Catherine Ryder is there with Tarrant County Credit Union, folks from, stand up, Catherine. You're not bashful, we know that. Folks from Fort Worth ISD were here earlier. Vicki, this is getting me ready for my employee recognition. Is it Yakuin? Yeah, well, that's about as close as sometimes I get. So go ahead and stand up. From Time Warner, Juan Daniel Garcia from Aetna. We had folks here from Univision 23. Fran Eichhorst from Fidelity. I saw Fran out there. We had folks from AmeriGroup here. Aaron Olivares from Cook's Children Health Plan. Dr. Dan Powell and Judy, is it Kangas? Kangas from Crowley ISD. Lucretia Chapman from Coca-Cola. Now, y'all are standing up as I'm calling your names, aren't you? Tammy Marcelona from Global Philanthropy, from Chase. Charles Williams from JPS Health. I saw Charles. Jerry McCullough, Superintendent of Arlington ISD. Heather Scroggins and Tim Tippett from Chesapeake. There's Chesapeake. We appreciate y'all's support. Israel Savandera from Metro PCS. Kelly Rod from TXU. Nikki and Tim are up there. Greg Monroe and Brooke Erlickson from the Young Lawyers Association of Tarrant County. So let's give all those folks a big round. Sometimes. Would y'all like to say? Would y'all like to start?
We do have just a couple of things to say. We at Walmart, we're very excited to be a part of this fair. All of our associates from all over Tarrant County will be there on Thursday. They're very excited to be serving the Tarrant County community. So we feel very honored and privileged to be a part of this fair. So we thank you so much. Thank you.
You know, I just want to say again, before we move on, they've registered over 12,000 folks. 12,000 kids. This is up, I think, the first year maybe from around 6,000. Judy and Julie have done a tremendous job in kind of putting all this together and organizing all this. The volunteers have been super. The kids are going to have an opportunity, just as many of you will be able to recall that first day at school, going to school with your supplies ready to get into that room and begin learning, and they're not going to be embarrassed by having to go into that room without those supplies. And so it's with a great deal of thanks that we want to thank you and tell you how much we appreciate the effort that y'all put forward in this. It's a great program, and it's one that unfortunately we're going to have to continue to grow, I'm afraid, as years go forward. But again, thank you very much for your support and for everything that Walmart does in the community. And for all of the other sponsors, you do so much and in so many different ways. I call on you, I know many times, on many different things, whether it be the food drive, whether it be other things. We tap you on the shoulder and ask for your help, and you're always the first ones to be there about that. So again, thank you very, very much. Let's give them another big round of applause. my favorite time of the month. It's the time of the month that I get to be embarrassed by the way I cannot pronounce names. And everybody up here just kind of laughs as we go along. But it really is something that I enjoy, and I enjoy very much the phone call. In fact, we were really supposed to do this last week, but I had to be out of town, and so I asked Commissioner Johnson if he'd mind if I pushed it forward a week, and he was, with a great deal of sacrifice, he said that's all right.
Absolutely.
So at this time, you know, I hope many of you know the drill. I will read your name and ask, or something that sounds close to your name. Ask you to please stand and, you know, don't get after me too much if I mispronounce it. And then at the end of a particular group, we'll thank you, and then we'll move forward until we get to our 20-year-plus employees, at which time we'll recognize them on an individual type basis. So to begin, our 5-year employees, our first 5-year employee is Kristen Ayala from CSCD. Valentine Begman, Precinct 2 Maintenance. Angela Brooks from the Tax Office. There you go. I was kind of worried about our 5-year people. I'm kind of... Gary Butler, Sheriff Confinement. Michelle Cummings, Public Health. Michelle, welcome. Graylyn Curry Robertson, Precinct 1 Maintenance. Sherald Ferris, Sheriff Confinement. Desiree Ford, CSCD. Sheila Harvey, Tax Office. Rhonda Kennedy, Justice of the Peace, Precinct 8. Thomas Kirby, Sheriff Booking. Becky LaCroix, Sheriff Warrants. Karen Marshall, Public Health. Ronnie Moore, Precinct 2 Maintenance. Roxanne Pearson, Sheriff Confinement. Melissa Perez, CSCD. Jenny Richards, JP Precinct 7. Karina Rodriguez, CSCD. Sylvia Ruiz, Public Health. Jessica Shylock, District Attorney's Office. Lynette Stillwell, Sheriff Confinement. Angel Williams, Juvenile Services. And Robert Williams, Sheriff Confinement. These are our 5-year employees. Let's give them a hand. Next, our 10-year employees. Shirley Franklin, Housing Assistance. Jason Hewitt, Facilities Management. Tiffany Lewis, Sheriff, South Patrol. Jesse McClure, District Attorney's Office. Carla Sears, CSCD. Sean Sears, Information Technology. Judge Michael Sinha, 360th District Court. Donna Steed, Auditor's Office. Hi, Donna. Rose Tranche, CSCD. Anna Valencia, Public Health. Michael Walters, Precinct 3. Mike. These are our 10-year employees. Let's give them a big hand. Now for our 15-year employees. Mary Butler, District Attorney's Office. Stan Geisler, Public Health. Mary J. Hancock, Domestic Relations. Alvin Pope, Sheriff Confinement. Robert Powell, County Clerk. Floyd Stovall, Information Technology. I thought, for a minute there, I thought, Stan, you're going to be by yourself. Let's give our 15-year employees a big And now for our 20-plus year employees. First is, be here in a minute, Cleve Benson. Where's Cleve? There's Cleve. Cleve is with CSCD. He's been with the county for 20 years. Started as a probation officer at Miller Street and has been there ever since. When I asked him about the more memorable moments, he said, when he started, he got to work in the high-risk caseload, and that's something that he remembered. And then also, over time, in working with the gang members. When I asked him what he liked most, it was being able to interact with people and making them, and this is something that really kind of struck me, making them aware that there was people out there who would be willing to help them, and that there were things out there that could be done to help them. And that a lot of times they kind of got into a bad strait because they just didn't realize that there were alternatives. He loved having an opportunity to being a part of an organization that gave people a chance. He said, working in this field was something that he'd always wanted to do. He enjoys very much working with people, and I think this really kind of says it all. For the last 9 years. He is actually, on the weekends, pastoring a church in Oklahoma. So in addition to doing everything that he does here on a weekly basis, when the weekend comes, he heads for Oklahoma in a pastoring position. We always knew those folks up in Oklahoma need a lot of pastoring. And we're glad that somebody from Texas has been able to go up there and kind of show them the way. But Cleve, we appreciate very much the service that you've given to Tarrant County these past 20 years. Thank you. Next is, I hope, Steve Conder. Is Steve here? There he is. Steve has been with the District Attorney's Office for 20 years. Started in the DA's office and actually started doing, I guess, the appellate briefs in the appellate briefs area. And then also coordinating responses now, I guess, to the DNA requests. When I asked him what he liked most, it was the challenges of his work, and just things were always interesting. He indicated. He said over the years he's really enjoyed dealing with the different judges, and through the appellate division. He said basically every day I'm doing research and we're kind of charting new ground. And I guess that's right, because you're really trying to just point to how this case was different. And he said the county was a great place to work, that he really appreciated the positive work environment that he observed not only in his department but in any of the other areas that he's had a chance to come in contact with, and that he really appreciated the opportunity to work with Tarrant County. Steve, we appreciate very much the 20 years you've given us. Thank you. Next, I believe, is Pat Eddings. Is Pat here? She wasn't sure she was going to be able to make it. She is in the medical examiner's office and has been there for 20 years. Works in the trace analysis area. Said she just absolutely loves what she's doing. So if you have a chance to come across Pat, be sure and thank her for the 20 years she's given to Tarrant County. Next is Richard Johns. And Richard is also one that we weren't sure was going to be able to make it. He's on vacation this week, but he thought he might be able to make it in. So Richard is with CSCD and has been there for 20 years. So again, if you're in that area and you see Richard, next time you see him, thank him for his 20 years of service. Next is Swanee Mockrak with CSCD. Swanee started in the Sheriff's Department in the booking area and spent a little bit of time there and then moved over into the IT department. And then from there, she went over into CSCD and works there as a help desk technician. When I asked her about the more memorable moments, she said, really over the past 20 years, she's seen a tremendous amount of change take part in the IT area and in the county, and that she's very much enjoyed that. She likes the diversification that the county has, and she said that it's just absolutely a great place and a friendly place to work. And she has really enjoyed the people that she's had a chance to work with over the years. She said, in just looking back, the county's been a great place to work and to be a part of. So, Juanita, we appreciate very much the 20 years you've given us. Thank you. Next is Jana Reed, was the Sheriff Department for 20 years. Jana started out in the Belknap facility and then moved over to the Cold Springs area, and I guess was there until it closed. And then she went out to the Resource Connection into the laundry area, and then moved over to the supply side of that particular area. When I asked her about memorable moments, she said, over the years there have been a lot of great memories that she's had in the different area and the different people she worked for. But she says nothing was more memorable than the night she walked for the first time into the jail and the door slammed behind her. And, I have heard that now several times from folks who are working, start off as jailers, excuse me, and they say it's really kind of a chilling effect when you walk in there and that door slams behind you. When I asked her what she liked most, it was the closeness of the department, the job that she's had an opportunity to perform. She said, I just love working with people. And she said the county's been a great place to work from a stability and from a benefits standpoint. As many folks have said, just can't believe the time has gone by this quick, and that, never dreamed that 20 years would go by so quickly. Jana, we appreciate very much the 20 years you've given us. Next is Ann Wright with the DA's office. Has been there for 20 years. Is Ann? She wasn't sure she was going to be able to make it down. She started off in private practice and then had heard great things about the DA's office and came to work prosecuting civil forfeitures. She said the things that she loved most was the ability to take things away from criminals. She said, a lot of folks go into this, and it really made sense after she said it. She said, most of the folks, when they commit the crime, they know that there's a strong possibility they're going to get to spend a little time. But their whole makeup is what they've got, their possessions, their things that they've accumulated as a result of the crime. She says, I get to take that stuff away from them and really bring them back to where they have nothing. And I wouldn't want her after me. But she, it's if you see Ann, be sure and thank her for the 20 years of service that she's given to Tarrant County. Now, next is Michael Roosh with the Sheriff's Department in the courts area for 25 years. Michael also is on vacation this week and was not going to be able to make it. But when you see Michael the next time, be sure and thank him for his 25 years. Next is Philip Sullivan, Sheriff Courts, for 25 years. Started off in the old Belknap facility and then went over to Cold Springs. Did, I guess, for some time, did the transportation run down to TDC. Worked over in Green Bay, and then on the labor detail, and now is in the courts area. When I asked him about the more memorable moments, he just talked about the upgrade of technology, and really going from a department that was almost in the Stone Age to one that is really up on modern law enforcement. Now, I sometimes get my folks mixed up, but if I did, you're going to know it in a few minutes. But one person at least talked about, it used to be with the fingerprints that you would you were trying to match those off of a card as opposed to having a machine. And so if the person that I'm fixing to introduce later on is that person, then they'll know that I messed up. And now, if I don't, you'll know I messed up anyway. When I asked him what he liked most, again, it was coming in and doing the job and then not having any problems. And what it basically came down to, and this is, he said, doing an honest day's work for an honest day's wage. And just, doing your job and doing the best you can every day when you come in. And that really kind of stuck with me. He said it was a great place to work and that he had met a lot of great people over the years. Philip, we appreciate very much the 25 years you've given us. Thank you. Vicki?
She's on vacation.
Vicki Truby in the budget and risk management for 25 years. We all know Vicki. Vicki is what keeps Butch straight now these past several years. Vicki started off in Judge Mike Moncrief's office and then worked for Roy English and then for Tom for a while, and then floated around in a few different areas, and then finally ended up in Debbie's office and trying to keep her under control, which we all know is absolutely impossible. But she's in the budget area now. When I ask her about the more memorable moments, Chris, be careful over there, which is just. Obviously, one of them, and I remember this day very, very well myself. It's when Butch and her were married here in the courtroom. Butch works out at Precinct 3 and has been a stalwart out there, and someone who I first got to know as I was elected commissioner, and I can't think of a better couple, Vicki and Butch. Also remembers, Vicki said she also remembered when the court met on Mondays, and occasionally would even have a night court meeting from that standpoint. You remember that? I do. When I asked her what she liked most, it was certainly all of the people that she's had a chance to work with over the years, and because she works in the office that she works in, she gets to see a lot of folks between January and May and June. She said the time has absolutely just flown by. She said, I remember when I first started work here, shorthand was a requirement. And so it has been a few years. And Vicki, I want to tell you how much we appreciate the years and the commitment you've made to Tarrant County over these past 25 years. Thank you very much. Next is Mike Morrow from Juvenile Services, 30 years. There's Mike. Mike started in the Juvenile Services. I guess he started off as a volunteer over in the emergency shelter and then was hired on full-time at the youth center. Later moved over to the Kimbo address and is now an intake officer with Juvenile Services. When I asked him about the more money, he said, across time it's just been very interesting to watch the department and to see things that have happened. And when I asked him what he liked most, it was all the people he'd had a chance to work with. He said it really is, and we say this time and again, but I in talking with the folks, you can hear the sincerity. It's like a big family. They take care of each other. They're there to help one another out. Not only the folks within your own department, but really even across that. If there's a need there, not only do our folks help those folks in their own areas, but as has been so evident in all the volunteer work that we do in the communities, we've got a very generous heart, and it's never lost on the folks within our own department. He said, I started out here when I was 23, and I never thought I'd be here this long. Time had really flown by. And he said, another thing about being in the department is he said, we've watched our families grow. We've watched us have kids. We've watched those kids grow up and have children. And it is just, it's just a very comfortable place to work. And Mike we appreciate the 30 years you've given us. Thank you very much. Now, I know we kept some probably a grandchild or someone here a lot longer than what we should have. And I am sorry that we put them through that ordeal. They were very, very good. They were just absolutely, if I'd have had to sit out there, I'd have been screaming too. And I wouldn't have even if I had had a pacifier, it wouldn't have helped me. So we're very appreciative of you, and I know that, who were you here to see get? Well, I appreciate you bringing your child, and certainly I hope that everybody will feel comfortable at doing that. And again, most of the time we won't put them through that long of an ordeal. I mean, you had them here for an hour, and I can guarantee you mine would have been screaming. So thank you all very much. Again, that's 560 years of service, committed service to our public and to our citizens. We thank you very, very much. Refreshments, 504C, back in the back. Started back.
Oh, are we still in the meeting?
Yeah. So much for the record on this one.
You may have a different record.
You're setting a record.
Court members, you have before you the Consent agenda?
I move approval of the consent agenda, less 9G that has been removed.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Mr. Manius?
Tax rate. There is no required vote by the Commissioners Court. Our current tax rate is .264. Our effective tax rate is .283888, and our rollback rate is .304580. So
Point what?
is .304580. Because our current tax rate and the tax rate that we are going to propose is less than both the effective and the rollback rate, there is no need for either public hearings or a record vote of the court as it relates to this part of the truth in taxation piece. So with that, I'm requesting that you simply receive and file this document.
So move.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
On item number 2, this is a similar action, but it deals with the Tarrant County Hospital District's effective and rollback tax rate, and we're requesting that you receive and file the proposed effective and rollback tax rate information for the hospital district and take no action regarding the proposed tax rate. Just for the court's information, the hospital district held a budget hearing, budget retreat this past Saturday. It was agendized and as a full meeting of their board. At the conclusion, they did approve their budget, and it was based on the current tax rate, which is .227897. We believe that they'll be coming before you to present their budget within a week or two. So we're asking that you receive and file this document.
What's their effective tax rate?
It is, the effective tax rate is, their current tax rate is .227897. Their effective tax rate is .245055. And their rollback rate is .264465. Those numbers are also included in your court communication.
Move approval, receive and file.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you, members of the court. If we can go now to item number 3, we're requesting that the court approve a letter of engagement between Tarrant County and KPMG as it relates to outside auditor's report for the fiscal year ending September 30, 2010.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Members of the court, if we now could go to item number 5, we're requesting that the court approve amendment number 4 to the Intergovernmental Cooperative Reimbursement Agreement between Tarrant County and the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality for the Local Initiative Program. This concerns our task force that will be headed by the Sheriff's Department concerning emissions control.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you, members of the court. On item number 6, this is our final item. We're requesting that the court approve the worksite training employment agreement between Workforce Solutions of Tarrant County, Workforce Centers in Tarrant County, doing business as the Resource Connection.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Just for the court's information on that particular action, we've always entered into agreements with Workforce Solutions as it relates to younger individuals. This will allow us to actually have a program for older individuals. So, with that, thank you, Your Honor.
Mr. Wright.
Thank you, Your Honor. Under the first item in the DA's office, requesting authorization to cash a check in the amount of $551.38, representing our recovery in this OxyContin litigation class action.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Mr. Rayburn.
Good morning.
Morning.
3 items for the court's consideration this morning. The first is a request from our office asking the court to order the general election for county officers on November 2nd, which includes establishment of the early voting sites. We have 36 permanent branch early voting sites and 9 temporary branch sites for the November election.
Move for approval. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Our second item is a request to order a local option liquor election in the city of Benbrook. The residents of the city have submitted petitions, and there were enough signatures on the petition to call the election. There's also a request for the court to decide whether the city should reimburse the county for the cost of conducting their election.
Do we standardly have cities reimbursed?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Move approval of the calling of an election and a request for the city of Benbrook to reimburse the county for their pro rata cost.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
The third item is also a local option election in the city of Kennedale. There were enough signatures on their petitions. Request that you order that election and also decide whether they should reimburse the county for the cost of the election.
Move approval for the local election, City of Kennedale, and for requesting reimbursement of the cost.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Worthy.
I move to receive and file personnel agenda.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to receive and file personnel agenda. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. Our second item is a request for the Commissioners Court to approve the Tarrant County's contribution rate to the Texas County and District Retirement System effective January 1st, 2011, and authorize the completion of the attached Plan Year 2011 form. As you know, we normally do come to you all once a year to request that you approve this, and each year we bring you 2 options. The first option is to require to approve the required rate without a COLA, which would be 12.05%, or option 2 would be the total required rate with an 80% COLA, which would be 12.31%. As you know, we normally do include the 80% COLA, and so those 2 options are available to you. And it is my understanding that 12.31% is included in this year's or in 2011 budget.
Let me be sure. The COLA you're talking about, the 80%
of CPR,
is just for the Is that just for the retirees?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay.
Now, are we doing anything to address the so-called rate creep, Debbie?
Not at this time.
We are currently funded at slightly over 80%, about 83%, which they have indicated to us that that is okay, that anything over 80% is okay.
I move approval of the rate, including the COLA.
Second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Mr. Beecham, you sitting back there like you were afraid you weren't going to get called on.
It's an awfully nice-looking red cup you're drinking out of today, sir.
Thank you, sir. That's my USS Lincoln cup. I didn't want you to confuse it with anything that might be associated with calling the hogs in Arkansas. Item number 1
is a bid award recommendation for our bid number 2010-061. It's an annual contract for the purchase of our service awards and retirement watches. A recommendation will be toward the primary and secondary vendors as shown in your court communique.
Move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
If I could take just a moment and give the court the results of the auction that we conducted Saturday. It's probably a good thing that Commissioner Johnson only contacted half the people that he knows, because if he contacted everybody else, we would have been overwhelmed with the crowd. We had the largest crowd we've had in 15 years, probably 12 to 1,500 people. We had over 650 registered bidders. Brought in about $402,000.
What was the total?
Yes, sir.
402.
402,000. I'd like to make a few quick thank yous, if I might. The only thing we could have wished for would be a little bit cooler weather. It'll be cooler in January when we have our next one, but Precinct 1, TC and his guys always chip in. Precinct 4, obviously, we had some air conditioner problems. They were there to save the day with that. Steve from the Star Telegram did an excellent article on Friday. KRLD, channels 5, 8, and 33. It was actually probably one of the best days we've had out there, and it was truly a team effort this time, and we do sincerely thank everybody for making it a success. Sold a lot of stuff, and we'll do it again in January. Thank you.
Jack, you remember our former purchasing agent? Could you tell the court where she lives now?
Hot Springs, Arkansas.
They all go back.
Is that where all y'all come from? Or go to? You know, y'all be careful. I wasn't going to admit this, but I am going to, as in my role in NACO, they're having their state association meeting in Hot Springs beginning this evening.
Really?
As in today?
As in today. And so I'm going to be actually calling the hogs come. You'll never see it. I have confiscated, and there's a no camera, no photo band on that. But
if you have a chance to run by Hogman's Hog Pen, I need a couple of T-shirts, and the whole Hog Cafe is a good place to eat.
Hogman's Hog Pen?
Yes, sir. They sell like Aggie Mom stuff, except it's hog stuff.
Did you understand that analogy?
Yeah, I'm not an Aggie. Moving right along, I think our next, are there any appointments today? There appearing to be none, then we'll move on to our claims, including the addendum.
Move approval of the claims, including the addendum.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the claims, including the addendum. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Briefing items, Mr. Manius.
Just briefly, Your Honor, we, as we do on an annualized basis, the Budget Office and our office put together a budget letter for you. We're ready to give that to you.
Yes, sir.
I'm not going to go over that letter. I'll let you read it, but I do want to say that next Monday, we're going to start our budget hearings, and they will be at 9 o'clock in the morning in the Commissioner's courtroom.
Any questions or comments at this time?
Probably will have after I read it.
Yeah.
I hear
We
you.
haven't read it.
I hear you.
That's why we give it to you at the end of the meeting. So, thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you, Mr. Manius. The Commissioner Court will now recess the open session and proceed to closed session to discuss items exempted under Sections 551.071, 072, 074, 076, and 08. Having returned from closed session, we will now address the following matter.
On the district attorney's item EM on the open agenda, that's our employee. We would ask that the court give us permission to intervene in litigation in Dallas.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
There being no further business, we are adjourned.
JD, does a bridge like that look familiar to you?